Good morning, good morning, good morning. You are with me show. My name is Lakeisha Hines. Listen, let me tell you something. If these were not my brothers, I just want y'all to know if they were not my brothers. I tell you what I really think. But aren't they looking suave, debonair this morning? I'm just trying to tell you they came representing this morning. Our fearless leader is traveling out of the country today. And so we just want to make sure we represent and do him proud today. So please make sure you let us know where you are streaming from today. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. And most importantly, if you have questions for us, please drop them in the chat. We will be happy to answer them. But most importantly, we are ready to dive into today's topic, which is 10 ways to stop feeling like a victim once and for all. So, how are you feeling today, Brother Roland?
I'm doing excellent, Lakeisha. Happy to be here with you and Walter. I'm doing excellent. How are you?
I listen, I'm blessed and highly favored. And that's what they tell us in the church to say we're blessed and highly favored. That's where I'm feeling, brother Walter.
Oh, I'm feeling great, feeling excellent. Normally I get a chance to participate and ask the experts, and so it's good to get some midweek time in. Happy Hump Day, everybody. Hopefully, everyone is having a great week and definitely excited about discussing this topic even more.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I don't know about you guys, but full transparency, full disclosure, I must say I have been in a space where I personally have felt like a victim before. I'm one of those people who loves really hard. I'm loyal to a fault sometimes. And there are times where I've poured into others and they didn't pour back into me the way that I desired or that I hoped. And I put myself in this victim mode where I'm like, see, that's why I shouldn't have did. Well, really, that's the enemy whispering in our ear, right? Telling us that we shouldn't do the thing that is natural to us, the thing that God put us in to do. Many of us are natural givers. I'm one of them. And so for me to walk in what it is that God put inside of me is what I desire to do. But when we don't get that ROI, that return on our investment, there are many times that we often get into this victim mode. Like I said, the enemy will whisper in my ear and say, see, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have given of yourself. You shouldn't have poured into this person in the manner in which you did. But that is not of God. So today we're going to talk about, again, ways to stop feeling like a victim once and for all. But I did want to ask you too, have you guys ever found yourself in that position where you felt like you were the victim in a situation?
Absolutely. If the truth be told, we all at some point or another in our lives have been the victim, played the victim, and have been victimized at some point or another. And the reality is, it's very unfortunate that we have had to experience that. But thanks be unto God that we are able to overcome those things when we recognize them, when we realize them, and when growth and transparency has taken place. And so for that cause, we're able to move differently, as I would like to say, when we have experienced those things. You go through things to learn. That's the part of it. And once we get the application of a thing, now it's time to actually work on it and do something about it.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
Keisha, it must be going around because it seems like you were eavesdropping on my wife and I's conversation last night because we were discussing this whole idea of being able to look back on situations, and especially when you have the privilege of perspective and growth. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was sharing with her during times where I felt like a victim in our marriage, where you justify that I deserve, or why am I,
Mm.
but because of expectations, why am I not getting this? And you hit on something very interesting, which I think is important, especially as we get into this topic, and starting with the end in mind, is that when it comes oftentimes to victimization, it is an individual oftentimes decision for us to embrace that mentality, and the
Ooh.
way that we back out of it is also an individual decision as well. And so
Mm-hmm.
part of this conversation when we talked about victimization is about helping all of us to recognize our power and the strategies and the tools that we have in place to pull us out of these situations, rather than putting the onus and responsibilities and the expectations on other people, not recognizing that by doing that, what we're actually doing is abdicating our power. We're
Ooh.
yielding our power over to other people, and we're saying that if this person does this, if this person says that, if this person does this action, then I will be free. And as long as your freedom, as long as your well-being is tied to the actions of other people, you will never be free, truly free.
What?
Hey, listen,
Exactly.
listen. I'm logging off. This the Walter show today. I am logging off. I am out of here. Peace. I'm going.
No, you don't. No, you don't. But listen, that's so powerful what you just said, Walter, because it's not just us individually sometimes, right? It's also our family marinade. It's our friends. It's the people we surround ourselves. It's social media. It's everything. I'm gonna read this quote to you by Gautama Buddha. He said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." And so
Mm,
we're all told that we deserve this and we deserve that. And we take those things into our marital relationships. And many times we've never had a conversation with our spouses about what those expectations are and what we're coming into the relationship believing that we deserve. Right?
mm.
So, if you grew up where you saw your mom serving your dad and fixing his plate every time, you go into marriage thinking, oh, yeah, my wife is going to do that for me. But if she grew up in a family where that's not what happened, where the husband actually fixed the plate for his wife, then she's coming into the marriage with those expectations. And I deserve to be served and I deserve to be served. So then nobody eating. We all hungry, everybody losing weight. Like, what is really going on? So I appreciate that so much what you said. All right, you guys, let's jump right on in. So the first way to stop feeling like a victim once and for all is to stop blaming others. Whew, man, listen. There are times where we feel like everything that is going on in our lives is not our fault, right? There are times when we're in this season where we can't see ourselves. We are blaming everybody and everything for our circumstances, for our situations, for all the things that don't go the way that we desire them to go, because we're so busy looking outward that we're incapable, unable to see how we actually are self-sabotaging ourselves. So what say you, Roland, about blaming others? Like what do you have to add to this? Because I know you've experienced this with your clients.
Well, listen, most times we don't understand the self-inflicted wounds that we bring on ourselves that create this space that we find ourselves in. But the minute we don't do that, we start blaming somebody else. It's their fault. The reason why I did what I did was because. And we try to justify our actions based on blaming somebody else for what they
Mhm.
haven't done and not realizing that it's a partnership. Marriage, any type of relationship is a partnership where it goes twofold. And so many times I'm dealing with clients that I did this because she wasn't doing, because he wasn't doing. And we try to justify our actions based on what somebody else did or did not do.
Mhm.
We have to stop blaming other people. We have to own our own stuff. We have to take
Mhm.
ownership of our actions and be responsible for them and stop blaming other people.
And asking the question, what was my contribution to this situation, right? What role did I play in this situation playing out in the manner in which it did? Walter, you touched on something previously. Well, you touched on a lot of things, but one of the things that you talked about is, beginning with the end in mind, is that, we do have the power to choose how we respond to situations. We have the power to determine what our mentality, what our mindset is going to be concerning this situation. So I was going to ask you, what's one of the reasons you've identified with your clients that they blame other people? Like what causes them to do that? What makes them do that?
Sure. So you mentioned something as it relates to our foundational family. And so many of the behaviors that we observe in some of our clients and the individuals that we work with are behaviors and attitudes that they brought with them from their childhood, from their experiences. And what we want to share with you is that while your experiences may not be your fault, they are your responsibility. So
Mm,
Mm.
again, some
wait,
things may have
back
some
it up, back it up. Say that again.
Absolutely. So your experiences that you have brought with you into your relationship and into the parts of your life that you're in now, they may not be your fault, but they are your responsibility. which means that you have to be willing to address them, to deal with them, especially if you see certain things that run rampant in your foundational family, then having the courage to change some of those things, because those are what we call normalized dysfunction. So
Yep.
there are some behaviors that are part of the norm of the family that you are in,
Yes.
that's just part of your regular culture. And so
Mhm.
it's important for us again to take ownership of how we are showing up, how people are expressing that they are experiencing us, and really take a long hard look at ourselves so that we can make the adjustments and the changes that we need. And again, when we blame other people, that's an easy out. And what it does is it in our minds, it helps to shift responsibility of the work that needs to be done. And one of the
Yes.
things that myself, Roland, Keisha, any of the practitioners will tell you, in this work, in this life, nobody gets out of doing work, no matter
Nope.
what your role is, whether you are the
Nope.
betrayer, the betrayed, no matter who you are, everybody has a role and work to do
Yes,
in the
sir.
process.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. 100%. And then let's work to break these generational cycles, right? Where we're teaching our children to do the same thing. I cannot tell you when I was in the school system how many times little Johnny, little Sally gets in trouble. You contact the parent, and the parent's like, oh, that's not my baby's fault. That's your fault, or that's this person's fault, or that's the other kid's fault. No, little Johnny, little Susie needs to take responsibility for the role that they played as well. So not only are we doing that in our relationships, but we're teaching our children that too. We're showing them that it's okay not to be accountable, not to take ownership of your actions. Right. But we have to make sure that we're setting those examples for them as well. Right. All right. So the next way to stop feeling like a victim once and for all has to do with how we treat ourselves. And it is being compassionate to ourselves. Many times we are not, right? We know that biblical commandment, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, guess what? It's really difficult to do that, to love your neighbor, if you don't love yourselves. And many times, and you guys can chime in on this one, I know with my clients, especially when I am dealing, it's not even gender specific. A lot of times I see it with the ladies, but it's not gender specific. It's the men too, especially when they are the betrayer. I'm having to work with them to teach them or remind them of how valuable they are. And to also help them to remember that it's important that they love themselves, regardless of what their actions were, regardless of what their sins were, whatever it is that they did, they still are deserving, there's that word again, of love, be not because of who they are, but because of who God is, right? So we're constantly having to remind them to love themselves and be compassionate toward themselves, because at the end of the day, none of us are perfect. We're going to fail. But how do you respond when you fail? Are you able to recover from that failure, or are you self-loathing?
Hmm.
So are you guys finding that with the males, start with you, Roland, are you finding with the males as well as females that there's a lack of self-love?
Absolutely. Because what happens is we feel unworthy. We feel that we're in this place of it's for everybody else and not me.
Mm-hmm.
I must not have done something right. So I'm being punished for feeling the way that I feel. And self-care is necessary care. If you don't take care of yourself, mind, body, and soul, you won't be able to take care of anybody else. And then here lies the problem again. We will start blaming other people for us not taking care of ourselves. And so we have to make sure that we have compassion towards ourselves and understand just more than who we are, but whose we are, to your point, Lakeisha, and recognizing that we can do all things. Right. And so we have to understand that it goes beyond just the social media image. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be sustainable and have substance within ourselves, take care of ourselves, have compassion. You have to love yourself before you
Mm-hmm.
can be in love, show love to anybody else. And so oftentimes, because we start comparing ourselves to others, we feel less than, we
Yes.
feel unworthy, we feel as though we cannot come up to the standards by which society has set before us and
Mm-hmm.
not be the standard, right? And so we fall back so often and put everybody else ahead of ourselves, and then we're scrambling trying to figure out who we are, what we stand for, what's our purpose, what's our value. You have to know your value. You have to know who you are, and you definitely have to take care of yourself.
Yeah,
Well,
really quick, Roland. Yeah, I'm sorry.
One of the things that you just said, Roland, again, was powerful. And it is about how we are looking at ourselves, viewing ourselves. And I'm really now, to me, that was a perfect segue into our next tip, which is to resist self-sabotage. We do that all the time. Walter, I want you to speak on this one because, man, you speak on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what I was going to say, and it's ironic that all three of these are actually interconnected, because when you talk about self-sabotage, a lot of what is happening is that we're blaming others because we are not being compassionate to ourselves. Most of the time, what is being expressed to other people by us are internal conversations and frustrations that we've had by ourselves to ourselves. So this type of self-sabotaging, it comes out in our relationships in the way that we interact with other people. And so you have to express and we have to model the model. So in other words, if you want compassion, then you have to show compassion to yourself. You're not going to be able to have genuine compassion to other people if you're not showing compassion to yourself, being patient with yourself, being honest with yourself, and saying that, hey, I dropped the ball, that I didn't do this, I didn't do that. And we do a really great job criticizing ourselves. I used to tell people all the time, I was the puff daddy of pity parties. I used to throw all white pity parties. Nobody threw a pity party like me. So we don't have a problem with that. The challenge is, can we compliment ourselves? The challenge is, can we give ourselves grace and mercy? And if we really know that we have received grace and mercy from on high, then we are part of that process of making sure that we are extending it to ourselves, and then the love is then spread abroad to other people.
Absolutely. I love that. I absolutely love that. And a part of that self-sabotage conversation has to be what's at the root of it. So I'll tell you guys, I used to be one of those people who was always checking the phone, wanting to know where you're going, what you're doing, who you're talking to, all of those things. And what I realized is some level of that was insecurity. But what was bigger than the insecurity literally was me trying to control. When we're stuck in this place of victimhood, what we want to do is try to control whatever disaster we think is coming around the corner so that we won't be disappointed. But really what I was doing was undermining my own joy and success with my self-destructive behavior, not giving my husband the ability to breathe and just live and just be himself because I'm trying to control outcomes. Because what I was taught growing up, to your original point, Walter, is that men cheat. That's what they do. And so at some point it's going to happen. But if I can get ahead of it, if I can just try to control it, then guess what? I won't get hurt, or I won't be hurt as bad if I'm able to get ahead of it. But that is a false sense of reality. It is not something that we can do. We cannot control the behaviors of others. And so we do have to work very diligently not to get in a place where we're self-sabotaging, because that's exactly what I was doing. So you guys, this has been a really great conversation. We have got to take a quick break so we can get ourselves. I'm hype. You guys are hype. We need to calm down just a little bit. So we need to get ready to take a quick break, but I don't want you guys to go anywhere. We will be right back with the rest of these tips. Don't you move. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.
Welcome back. Welcome back. You are watching the Couples Academy show. My name is Lakeisha Hines, and I'm with Walter Jennings and Roland Bradley, and we are having a grand old time talking to you guys about how not to be in this state of victimhood. But one thing we must do is shout out the people who are here, because we so appreciate you guys watching every single week. Save One, Virginia, Lindsay, Daryl, Reese, Caroline. Is it Caroline? Yes, Callie Power Couple, and Vincent, Aaron, and Andrea. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We appreciate it so much. So in continuing our conversation, we really want to encourage you guys that this is something that is doable. It's possible. We want to give you hope that you have the opportunity to choose whether or not you stay in this state of victimhood or not. So the next way to stop feeling like a victim is to practice gratitude. And I'm actually going to link this with another way that you can stop, which is to perform acts of kindness to others. So here's the thing. When you're in a state of gratitude, one of the things that you want to do is look around and think about all the things that you have possession wise, but think about all of the things that you don't have and think about why you don't have them. Maybe it's because it wasn't the right time for you to have them. So be thankful that God didn't answer some of these prayers that you asked for, because here's the thing. We have no idea of what's coming on the other side of what our requests are, but God knows. So sometimes we ask for things that aren't good for us. Sometimes we ask for things at the wrong time. Sometimes we're asking for things that's really meant for someone else, because maybe we were observing something someone else has and we said we want that, but that's not really what God has for us. So in practicing gratitude, we're thanking God for what we do have. We're thanking Him for what we don't have. We're looking at our circumstances and situations and expressing gratitude for the growth and the progress that we've made. Because if you're still here, however old you are, you're still here is for a purpose. And so be grateful for every day that you wake up and you have an opportunity to do something different, to be able to pour into someone else, which leads me to performing these acts of kindness to others. We're not here for ourselves. We are totally not here for ourselves. And we enter into marriage looking for what that person can do for us. But really, our mentality should be what we can do for others. So, Roland, speak on this. You have anything to add to performing acts of kindness or practicing gratitude?
Yes, we all have to be in a state of humility. And to be in a state of humility is to be human. We have to recognize that being able to serve others is the greatest gift of all, right? And practicing a level of gratitude, or having a level of gratitude, is being thankful for what I have. And to your point, thankful for the things that I don't have, because we ask for things that we are not ready for, that we don't deserve sometimes. And we also have to understand that our timing is not God's timing. And so we may want something right now that we are not even ready for. And sometimes, to my father-in-law's point, God is getting the people around us ready for the things that we are going to have. And so we have to understand that showing a level of gratitude, we have to be thankful for everything. And I think sometimes we are living in a society where we take things for granted. We take people for granted. We take doing things for other people for granted as well. And we have to come back to this place of being humble, which is to be human and be humanized to serve other people. That's just the bottom line.
Absolutely. So I want to take us to our next point, which is to forgive and let go. This one is so powerful because it's hard for us to shift our mentality from being in this state of victimhood or victimization or whatever if we're not in this space of being able to forgive and let things go. We know that people are going to hurt us. It just is what it is. It's not intentional. Sometimes the enemy uses people and people don't even realize that they're being used. That's the truth. So we know that we're going to get hurt, and we have to be in this place of being willing to release it and let it go. The Bible tells us that we're not supposed to fight our own battles, right? The battle is it's the Lord's, and he said vengeance is mine. So while we're up here trying to get people back and we're trying to make people hurt the way they hurt us, really the person that we're hurting truly is ourselves. So every couple that we've worked with who has suffered from infidelity, they're trying to recover from infidelity, they have these feelings of bitterness and anger from what took place. Rightfully so. We understand that. But we have to be able to transition from that space of unforgiveness to forgiveness and then releasing. Because the truth is, as I previously said, the forgiveness, it's not about the other person. It's about us. And Walter, you touched on how we have to take responsibility for our own actions. And so we also have to take responsibility for how we respond when people do hurt us. And when we do have that pain, it's our responsibility what we're going to do with that hurt and pain. And we really need to be transforming it into empathy, compassion, and understanding for other people. So when we're able to get couples to move from that bitterness and resentment and all of that to being understanding and compassionate toward their partner who betrayed them, we know that we got a willing vessel, and we know that there's going to be success for that relationship. So our next point, Walter, I want you to actually touch on, and it is to shift your mentality from that of victim to survivor.
Absolutely. So this one is very powerful and important because what it does is exactly what it implies is that it's a shifting and a changing of your mindset. So rather than allowing yourself to sit and remain in a place of a victim, which that individual normally is continuing to relive the trauma that has been inflicted upon them or that they have experienced. Whereas a survivor is in a place of looking to be reflective on it for the lessons that they have learned and extracted from that in order to be better and also to help other people. So they are two distinct and important mindsets that are critical to the well-being of that individual. So it's so important that we move from a victim mindset to a survivor mindset, because remaining in a victim mindset, it keeps you in that place of that situation when it happens, and it doesn't allow you to move forward in really healthy and productive ways.
You're muted.
You're muted, Keisha.
Sorry about that. So perfect segue into the next point, because one of the ways that we're actually to move from victim to survivor is to build our self-confidence. Sometimes we're staying in that victim mode because we're struggling with low self-confidence. And the reality is the best way to do that is to emulate confident people. You know, it's funny today how Hassani's kind of been setting the tone for us. We all in suits today because that's what Hassani's been doing, right? So, you know, when we put ourselves around people who are successful, when we put ourselves around people who have what it is that we want, that they've overcome, they've made it to the other side, and we emulate them, that can help us to build self-confidence. But also, going back to school, getting a certification, learning, studying the word of God, understanding who we are in Christ helps us to build self-confidence. So it's learning literally from the inside out. We start inside with dealing with our internal selves, and then we're able to look outward and get a support system of people who can help us to build that self-confidence as well. All right. Our next point is to challenge your perception of reality. And Mr. Rowland, I ask if you can bring us home.
So challenging your perception of reality, none of us look like what we've been through. We've all been through some things, but none of us look like what we've been through. And we have to understand that there is a greater purpose for all of us, regardless to where we are right now, the circumstances or situations we find ourselves in. There is a greater purpose and cause for every one of us. And the reality is that we can do all things if we see ourselves in the position of having all things that we desire. And so when we challenge our perception of reality, that is simply saying that where I am is not my destiny, my destined place, that I have a place beyond where I am. If I put in the work, as we so often say, it is going to take work to get past all these things, right? To get past being a victim and finding ourselves in a place of purpose, a place of passion, and a place of progress. And if we do those things, if we take on that mentality, we can go. Our the sky is definitely the limit. You know, I'm kind of excited, as you can see, just because I know that the possibilities are endless when we change our mindset. The power of proximity is so real that when you link up with the right people, and especially when you link up with God the Father Himself, it's nothing that you're unable to do. It's nowhere that you're unable to go. It's nothing that you can't have that is within His will. So let's challenge our perception of reality and let's look at where we are, but also more ultimately look at where we desire to be and go after it.
Absolutely. And that very last thing of shifting that mentality from that of victim to survivor is really about too. Sometimes people have this sense of learned helplessness, right? Where they believe that they're not in control of their circumstances or situations. And that's something that starts in early childhood and possibly even early adulthood. But again, that is not true. We do have control over our circumstances and situations, or basically how we respond. We can't control what comes to us and things that happen, but we do have control over how we respond. And so if you are struggling to get out of victim mode, please reach out, make that discovery call, let us help you, let us assist you. And that's what we're here to do. We want you guys to be walking in the fullness of whatever it is that God has for your life. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Brother Roland and Walter, for being here with me today. Hassani, hey, and Danielle, safe travels where you guys are. We love you, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning. Have a good night, you guys, or day.